Chapter 5. Characteristic of Contemporary Theory.
Good day, everyone. I am Anyana O. Salama Jr. Together with my group, Rose Yuvilin, Roaza Cynthia May, Salamanes Crystal Faith, and Jillian Simbahon. We are the Group 3, and we are tasked to discuss all about Chapter 5, which is Characteristics of Contemporary Theory. Contemporary theory is a group of modern literary criticism approaches, such as feminist criticism and psychoanalytic criticism. Contemporary theories stress that the focus of developmental understanding must be on systemic change. Contemporary literary theory is not a single thing, but a collection of theoretical approaches which are marked by a number of premises, although not all of the theoretical approaches share or agree on all of them. Understanding, developing, and revising theories is an important part of the science. Theories inform and frame sociological research and analysis and are the result of collective bodies of sociological findings. Contemporary theorizing helps to build consensus and generalizable knowledge in the field. Meaning is assumed to be created by difference, not by presence, that is identified with the object of meaning. As the revisionist Freudian Jacques Lacan remarks, a sign signals the absence of that which it signifies. Signs do not directly represent the reality to which they refer, but, following the linguistic of Ferdinand de Saussure, mean by difference from other words in a concept set. All meaning is only meaning in reference to, and in distinction from, other meanings. There is no meaning in any stable or absolute sense. Meanings are multiple. There is no foundational truth or reality in the universe as far as we can know. No absolutes, no internalities, no solid ground of truth beneath the shifting sands of history. There are only local and contingent truths generated by human groups through their cultural system in response to their needs for power, survival, and esteem. Consequently, values and identity are cultural constructs, not stable entities. Even the unconscious is a cultural construct, as Kaja Silverman points out in The Subject of Semiotics, in that the unconscious is constructed through repression. The forces of repression are cultural, and what is taboo is culturally formulated. Language is a much more complex, elusive phenomenon that we ordinarily suspect, and what we take normally to be our meanings are only the surface of a much more substantial theater of linguistic, psychic, and cultural operations, of which operation we are not be fully aware. Contemporary theory attempts to explore the implications of levels of meaning in language.
Hello everyone, I am Cynthia Miruwasa, a BS in English 3 student, and for this video, I will be discussing all about the literary checklist. So now, let's first begin with what does this literary checklist mean. Literature reviews analyze previously published material on a specific topic. It summarizes the research and draw original or unique conclusions. They do not report new or original experimental work. A great tip for catching simple errors is by listening to your work read out loud. You can either read it out loud to yourself or you can highlight your entire essay, hit the copy, and then paste it into Google Translate. Make sure that you click English, then press the Listen button. Listen very carefully to catch mistake in your writing. Listen for the flow of your essay. Does it make sense? Are there parts that are confusing and need more explanation or translation? Now let's proceed to the literary checklist, the elements of literary style. Style is the manner of expression of a particular writer. It produced by choice of words, grammatical structure, use of literary device, and all the possible parts of language use. Most writers have their own particular styles. In this literary checklist, there are 15 elements of literary style. These are the following. first we have the sentence structure. In this part, it must be utilized by including important details like are the sentence long or short? When and why do they change? Are the run-ons or fragments? Do they include long tangents or is the speaker interrupted? Are the words in normal order or have they been mixed up? Second is the pace. For this part, is the writing heavily descriptive, emphasizing setting and atmosphere, or does it focus on action and plot movement? It should be like that to create something interesting. The third part is the diction. As for the diction, is the writing tight and efficient, or elaborate and long-widened? When does the author change diction and why? We must understand that these important details to also understand our work. The fourth part is the vocabulary. As for vocabulary, we must choose words that suit to what we had created, like are the words simple or fancy? Are they technical, conversational, or brainy, sarcastic, or obscure? The fifth part is the figure of speech. This is important in creating work or literary work since this part gives meaning to a certain literary work. And this is important. Details should be observed like, are there any metaphors, similes, or symbols? Or are there any other uses of figurative language like personification, hyperbole, imagery? The next part is the use of dialogue. Is also important. This part is something that question. How often does dialogue tell the story? Do we see whole conversation or just fragments? Does the conversation use slang or is it formal? Does it appear natural or artificial? Does the dialogue give a sense of pacing of poses of the unsaid? Or how much does it substitute for narration? The seventh part is the point of view. This part usually answers the possibilities. First, second, third omniscient, limited omniscient, multiple innominate, free and direct discourse, or pluswork are part of the point of view. Does the author have narrator use pluswork to tell the story? The next is the character. In a certain literary work, this is how does the author introduce characters and how do we see their evolution in the story? What is their function and motivation? What kinds of character are they or fall around? Stock characters, archetypes, stereotypes, or caricatures. As for the tone, it means that what is the author's attitude? What is the mood of the story? Does the author seem sarcastic, aggressive, wistful, pessimistic, in love, philosophically detached, hopeful, ironic, better? Whatever the tone, where it is visible in one narrative, does the author use figurative language, hyperbole to contribute to the tone? The 10th part is the word sound. Do the words call attention or how much does the language call attention to or benefit from the quality of their sound? Like through alliteration, assonance, consonance, dissonance, rhythm, unusual word choice, or etc. The next is the organization. This means that are paragraphs very short or are they enormous blocks running across many pages? Are the chapters short or long? How many are there? Or how are they organized and why is this important? The next is the chronology. Is something that how has the author organized the chronology of events? To what effect or what is the work's in structural rhythm? The next again is the allusions. How and how often does the author refer to other texts, myths, symbols, famous figures or historical events or quotation or etc. The worded type is the language experimentation. Are there any unusual techniques such as a stream of consciousness, mixing style and genres, unusual layout of the page, breaking rules of grammar and form, odd or unstable narrative perspective, or onomatopoeia? Lastly, we have these metafictional techniques. Does the author call attention to his or her own process of narration? Are the narrator's position, role, and thoughts as a storyteller mission explicitly in the text, or what function does this serve? Those 15 elements are important factors in creating a literary piece because it makes our work incredible and interesting that would easily catch the attention of the readers of our audience. That ends my report. I hope you learned something.
Good day everyone. My name is Jillian Bisimbahan, and for today, I will going to discuss all about perspective of literary interpretation. What is perspective of literary interpretation? While reading a fiction or non-fiction book, readers see and experience the events and feelings about the characters through a certain point of view, which is called a perspective. A perspective is a literary tool which serves as a lens through which readers observe characters, events, and happenings. A writer may narrate the story from his perspective or from a character's perspective. Its purpose is to make the voice of a writer distinctive from other writers.
There are three writing perspectives: first person, second person, and third person. Each affects the tone and message of the text and how the reader perceives the writing.
First person is the most personal of three writing perspectives. This perspective is written from the writer's point of view and is often used to convey a personal experience. Accordingly, the writer uses the pronouns I, me, us, my, and we when written is a first-person text. The use of first-person point of view makes the writing seem more conversational and natural in tone. Writing in second person entails using language that addresses the reader. Accordingly, second-person text often use the term you to engage the reader and involve her in the narrative. Authors are more prone to using active and direct language when writing in the second person. This style of writing is often used in advertising and marketing campaigns and instructional writings. Third person is the most authoritative and objective of three writing perspectives. Third person is not written from the author or reader's point of view, but instead from that of a third person like a narrator. An author writing in third person will use pronouns such as he, she, they, and it in the text. This writing perspective is often used in texts where the goal is to report information such as newspapers, reports, and scholarly texts. It is also the usual point of view when the writing is a business communication. Maintaining third-person perspective throughout a text can prove difficult. Literary perspectives help us explain why people might interpret the same text in a variety of ways. Perspectives help us understand what is important to individual readers, and they show us why those readers end up saying what they say. That's all for my discussion, and I hope you learned something. For more integrated approach, let me call on Miss Evelyn Grace Rose.
Good day everyone, I am Evelyn Grace Ross and I will be discussing the integrated approach. More integrated approach. This approach is aimed at showing students that technology is a tool that they can use to increase their knowledge, improve their productivity, and complete complex tasks. This is according to Eisenberg and Johnson of 2002. Research shows that learning is more effective when the boundaries between subjects are less defined. For example, English, science, learning inquiry, and reading. The role of the teachers in applying an integrated approach. In an integrated approach, the role of the teachers is to facilitate the students throughout the learning process. Teachers are the custodian of knowledge. Their aims is to pass their knowledge on to their students. Therefore, they need to be very familiar with the curriculum in order to identify potential learning opportunities. Benefits of integrated approach. We know that students are more engaged when they see a purpose of what they are doing. A key feature of this approach is based on the meaningful learning experiences that are truly connected to the real world. Doing an integrated approach, students use multiple objectives while navigating their way through the learning process and trying to understand the world around them. That's all about integrated approach. Thank you for listening. And for the analysis of When Living is a Fate Worse Than Death by Kristen Mitchell, let me call on Miss Crystal Faith Salamanes.
Good day everyone, I am Crystal Faith Salamanes, and for today's video, I will be sharing the analysis of the article When Living is a Fate Worse Than Death by Christine Mitchell. But before we start, let us know first who is Christine Mitchell. Christine Mitchell was born on December 8, 1951. She is an American filmmaker and also an executive director of the Center for Bioethics at Harvard Medical School, or HMS. And now let us proceed to the summary of the article. There was a patient named Charlotte. She's a girl that born with malformed brain or damages to a developing nervous system or causes it to develop abnormally. Sometimes it's a genetic problem. In other cases, exposure to certain medicines, infections, or radiation during pregnancy interferes with brain development. Was wrapped in a sac that grew outside her skull and had to be surgically removed to prevent middle death. Charlotte's parents wanted to do everything they could do to save their little girl, so they traveled all the way from Haiti. The author speaks of how Charlotte would fight every day through all that she went through with going back and forth from hospital to hospital. For 16 months, Charlotte bounced back and forth between hospital, home, and the ER and pediatric nurses' homes. Every time her body tried to die, nurses and doctors staved off death. Each time, Charlotte got weaker. And at the end, Charlotte died with peace of mind, with no pain at all. So that's it. That's the summary of the article, When Living is Fate Worse Than Death. So for the analysis of the article, in the article, When Living is a Fate Worse Than Death, author Christine Mitchell argues that predicament that medical professionals face in treating critically ill patients. Do they continue to prolong a patient's life with excruciating medical procedures or let the patient die in peace? The author was effective in her argument that after all measures has been done, that baby Charlotte should have been allowed to die peacefully to end her suffering. In this article, the author shared the story of a baby Charlotte who was born with a malformed brain. She cited how the parents wanted her to live longer, despite the medical professionals' advice. She assumed that parents allowed the baby and the medical team to go through the dilemma of treating baby Charlotte because they were too young and too hopeful. However, I personally believe that race, age, cultural background, or anything else are not factors on the innate desire that parents have for hoping against all hopes that their children get every bit of medical attention, if only to get them to live a bit longer. I further argue that there was no mention of consultation with other medical facilities for alternative treatments like stem cells or other newly emerging treatments that could have swayed this article towards the other side. And above all, we can't discredit the fact that sometimes people survive the worst conditions despite doctors' worst prognosis. In summary, there will always be difficulty in weighing in which decision is more appropriate. Is it more proper to prolong life with excruciating procedures or let it end in peace? So that's it for the analysis. Thank you. So thank you for listening and thank you for watching. This has been Crystal Faith Salamanes, your reporter for today. Thank you.
Thank you.